Big Brother 27, a season that definitely there's one thing you could definitely can say about Big Brother 27 that I feel a season that's going to be incredibly unforgettable. Like I feel like nobody's really going to forget Big Brother 27, honestly, and I feel as if it's going to go down as a very divisive season for sure. But personally, after really thinking about it, honestly, because honestly, I think I was really started to think about one season before I actually did my video. Because despite the fact that it had like one moment here that I feel like it could have ruined the entire season, it's one of the worst things to ever happen Big Brother. This might be one of the best seasons of Big Brother possibly ever. And I'm dead serious, and that's definitely a bold claim to say, honestly. Saying that we had like an all-time great season last season, 26, but I don't know, 27 just I don't know, 27 just felt like a season that just filled with so many highs, honestly. Like last season, it's probably one of the most unpredictable seasons that we have got in quite a while. I mean, eviction as well. That's like I'm going to one of the best of all time. A cast that, while most of them were pretty terrible gameplay, like the gameplay, this is probably one of the worst cast of all time. Like some of them make some decisions that are just so boneheaded and so just questionable and so just. What made you come up with that? And why would you do that? That in the end, it kind of looks to be, but yeah, it ends up being so entertaining when how terrible some of the players end up being, honestly. On the return of a beloved Big legend, having some pretty fun moments, like Bloodbath continuing to prove that it's probably going to here to stay, honestly, for better or for worse, but I'll get into that. And so while there are definitely some missteps here and there in this season, I don't think there's a season Big Brother that I have not stopped thinking about in the good ways in a long time, honestly. I mean, when you do that, that definitely holds you high ground being a season that's just truly unforgettable. Anyways, let's go into discussing Big Brother 27. And as for expectations going into the season, I really wasn't sure what to expect going into Big Brother 27. I'm pretty sure a lot of people think, considering it is the 25th anniversary, and a lot of people are hoping this will finally get our second chance to an All-Star season. And unfortunately, that being the case, we had to get a new cast that, one offset, did seem to be actually be a very interesting cast on. So I think everyone's highlighting a lot of people. A lot of them felt like they were here to play. A lot of them felt like we were going to get like maybe a strategic sound cast, which often had to be the case. But lots of casting, they were here to play and they were here to really make good TV, and some of them definitely did for sure, for better for worse. And of course, with them having like this mystery feeling and all that stuff, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And of course, the fact that we're also going to get a 17 house guest, which we appeared that was going to be like another thing I did last season. But no, we ended up getting, again, Rachel Riley returning, which again, I'll have my thoughts on Rachel in another part of this video. But yeah, this was something that going into a season, it felt like a season that we will definitely work, like, we might actually get a good season here. And we definitely did for sure. And I first was talking about like Hotel Mystere, which was as I know, the people always know how I have like a theme when it comes to houses, but then now to take more themes a little more seriously, honestly, which you kind of did that last season with the whole AI aspect and like Ainsley and Janky thing and everything. And they're kind of like doing the same here, honestly, with Hotel Mystere basically being a murder mystery team, honestly. Which I think is probably why when they announced they were doing 17 house guests, I thought the house guests was just getting murdered. They were going to be 16, but we'll get to that in a bit. We will get to that. But in terms of design, House of Mystere is actually one of the best designs that we have gotten in the Big Brother house, like with the little details they put and everything. Like in terms of how the house looks, at least, it is pretty incredible. Like, you guys don't talk about house design when it comes to Big Brother, or you don't think about house designs, honestly, but I gotta know when the designs are pretty well done, I'm not gonna lie. All that stuff. And then we got the Mastermind, which it's probably one of the things I'm more mixed on when it comes to this season is how the Mastermind is handled. Most because I don't feel like they haven't feel like he's a legitimate threat on. So they already robbed him for like a good chunk of the season after like the first few weeks, and his son just shows up at like near the jury phase, which again we'll get to that. That's all. There's no one thing like who is this Mastermind? Who is the reveal? And they actually kind of revealed it in the finale. But first they kind of did a red herring where they built to be Dr. Will, which is like, that's obvious. And then they had to like, no, I'm innocent, I've been tricked and everything. And then suddenly before they actually revealed the winner, they decided to reveal that it was not one, not two, but three Masterminds. And the first two were like very interesting ones where they ended up being Jesse Goddard, the muscle type of wrestler guy who basically is just super buff and also got screwed with Kurita. Ricky Grande, who was also playing on video games and kind of got screwed in his season. But the third one, I think, pretty much got a lot of people gapped in that it'll end up being Eric Stein from BB-8. Like, I remember when I was almost like, no way. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone, like, geeked out so much during that we never thought we'd see Eric Stein in some way capacity on Big Brother. But yeah, we did. We did. I remember who was someone that was kind of also screwed because of Be America's Player, and the fact they actually acknowledged that, it's pretty interesting actually now. And it's probably something that's not going to like make a difference. Like, maybe if we do get a chance next year, he might actually appear on it, which we're thinking, but you never know. But the fact that he actually appeared at all was because, again, the fact that the three of the masterminds end up being plays that end up being screwed by Twist, which is funny considering one Twist this season, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. We will get to that twist. Believe me, we will get to it. Get to it, and so that can't be the twist, become the twist, which can, well, it was a bit stretched out a little bit. It does make what satisfying thing, even if they try to play that thing, and so the whole time was really ridiculous, honestly. But it was still, but well, it could end much better. At least it had a satisfying conclusion. So, yeah, my point thing is somehow more mixed on, honestly. I think I referenced that at least. And now, at this point, I'm going to acknowledge like 2 things involved in this season that definitely are. Things that I'll pretty much be talking points about the future of Big Brother, and that's the fact that we have the Blockbuster returning, and the fact that somehow we got a cast where the gameplay is somehow even worse than last season. And last season was not a gameplay that had like last season was also a season one, like nobody was playing pretty well, and we had some good players. Chelsea being a worthy winner by the end of it, like being a very dominant winner by the end of the season, kind of obvious, honestly, maybe even T-Core to an extent, and some players did play some good moves here and there, but some of them were playing pretty terribly in last season. Like, Jesus, I couldn't believe how bad some people actually were playing on that season, how passive some people were on that season. And well, of course, it made for an entertaining product, obviously. I think 26 is honestly one of my favorite seasons of the show. If you're someone that looked into a Big Brother season for good gameplay, you're not going to get that. Especially then, some of that gameplay can lead to some frustrating elements, as it is obvious that this could be a good move, it could be exciting to watch, but they just decided not to take it for some reason. Sometimes just to make a move like that ends up falling apart for like no real reason, or they decide to make a big move that ends up blowing up in the face. Or they just don't think things through. And we'll definitely get to some of those players, honestly. I do have still exceptions for some of these players, but yeah. Somehow these 20 players are even worse. While we also do have some good players, honestly, and some decent moves here and there, most of the people on this guys end up, like, there's definitely a few people here that are considered probably some of the worst players to ever been, not really on a personality standpoint, except for one. But in terms of gameplay, some of them just bomb me. I'm talking about two of those players, which I'll get into, and then make it deep in the game, which leads us to the Blockbuster, which does return from last season. So we can just tell the Blockbuster, which I feel is going to end up being Tazmiel now. And I'm definitely mixed on the Blockbuster, honestly. I think I've always was mixed, honestly, because I feel like it kind of might feel more competition, people to make it deeper into the game, honestly. And if given the wrong people, honestly, it could be something that could be easily gamed. But I got not up Blockbuster did make for some entertaining moments of last season, honestly. I mean, I don't think we would have gotten the incredible Joseph eviction and the Cedric blindside if it probably wasn't for the Blockbuster. But I don't like that made for some entertaining moments that season, and honestly, I can still say it's still maybe entertaining moments, honestly, if we got some interesting results from that was honestly the fact that we had one person, there was Kelly, basically felt like she couldn't get evicted in the 3 times she won the Blockbuster. But some people showing some pretty impressive strats, and then of course Mickey winning the week's HOH, feel like she could have gotten easily evicted. She was next to Lyra Morgan, and that led to the incredible eviction away, which again, I feel like a lot here, but it's not one I would definitely get into. Since I'm not left with some exciting moments. The only thing is that it does kind of leave me scared for the future of Big Brother, because I feel it's gonna have people really have more seasons with terrible gameplay and more people basically feeling like they have to rely more on competitions just to make it farther. I mean, you had two people that basically feel they could have gotten evicted earlier in the week, and then they basically made it deep into the game. Like one made it to the final seven, one made it to the freaking final five. So who expected if the blockbuster keeps going on as long as it had, someone could just win blockbusters and just hump their way to the end and win the game, which is not gonna make for a satisfying end to your season. Honestly, like I'm trying to hold another one thing down, honestly, but it does give me concern, honestly, to well, Blockbuster definitely is fun, honestly. I feel like this season proved that Blockbuster should be more just focused on pre-jury, but also just be a little more eased up, honestly. And yeah, I'm also building the Blockbuster. They kind of went on a bit too long this season, like a bit too long. Like why they like keep going to Final Seven is honestly beyond me, but it's kind of proves that yeah, they should just end it when the jury race starts, honestly, and that just kind of proves that. As a blockbuster, and I'm getting kind of a bit old after a while. It wasn't as exciting as it used to be. So well, I'm still perfectly fine with it, honestly. It does prove the up and downs, honestly, and like I said, we do have a season where we have a lot of people playing some terrible gameplay. I mean, hell, we got another instance of someone having a power that could save themselves, but they decided not to use the power, and it led them getting evicted. And yeah, we got a Marcella season 3 moment again. In season 27, it just, well, the letters is like, really? And we got a lot of people playing more passively, a lot of people playing like, some people being indecisive, a lot of people making like terrible back and forth moves. And yeah, I'll talk about more of those when we get to the actual players, but yeah, it's so wishy-washy with this casting season, and I feel this could be a case where if they keep like doing the blockbuster and keep casting these type of people, it's gonna have a lot of these modern seasons feel to a lot this season and last season are definitely some of the better modern seasons that we have gotten, and some of the better seasons overall we've gotten to in quite a while. If they keep doing this, most of the seasons are just gonna end up feeling like they're just the same. Same. So I'm not sure I'm not the only big fan, honestly, to Walt Disney last season proved how entertaining they can be. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing, honestly, and pretty this season we could end up having seen the cast people that just are very icky and everything like that, and a lot of stuff, and I'm sure, and we could end up getting like a Derek Carr situation where I feel like we can have some people that basically are going to game the blockbuster. They're just going to end up gaming the blockbuster, and then that's going to end up like making for a boring dragger season. So it's something I'm still mixed on to well, the terrible gameplay can be pretty interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure terrible gameplay is why some of us go to these reality shows. Sometimes even that can have its limits, honestly, and I feel like my end of game knows at some point down the road if they keep going the routes that they are. As I guess in the blockbuster, it's probably going to be here to stay, honestly, from what I've been told. But if you're going to keep honestly, at least make sure you manage competitions with at least a little bit more variety, and make sure you actually end it at the actual pre-jury stage. As long as you do that, I'm golden. And now let's talk about the cast itself, and at least most of the cast, honestly. I do have some players and will end up like have them be on their own sections, honestly, because there's actually a lot of help more of these players, honestly. But the only players I'm gonna have their own sections basically be like Rachel, Keanu Kelly, Vincent Morgan, and the winner of the season. So I'd like to give them talk about at least like how I feel about most of the players this season. And well, I have one player. This is definitely a mostly solid cast, honestly. Like, despite the fact that you've got some players that just like you don't know, but like some players that you don't know how but it works. Apparently, we're just like, that's not as fun as you think it is. That's not as like, interesting as you think it is, honestly. So at least have you make sure they're more knowledgeable on the show at least. So that's just my difference. But last time, I'm gonna get my thoughts on like most of the cast, honestly. First up, you have the first boot in Zay, who was definitely better than I expected. Like, he definitely had some icky moments here and there, but I can say he definitely played better than I expected, honestly. Like, as first boot, he's definitely one of the better first boots. I feel like he did kind of be screwed the blockbuster, and the whole we went twist where someone actually came in as an accomplice, and if they didn't get caught, they would be official house guest. Honestly, I think they're hoping someone actually would get caught, apparently, or at least it felt like it, honestly, with all that stuff, but he told Zay wasn't the last one anyway. I mean, Zay really apparently used ChatGPT to basically learn how to win the game. No joke, by the way. But as a first boot, it was fine, honestly. In terms of gameplay wise, and in terms of personality wise, it definitely has fun moments here and there. So, as first boot, it was fine. And then we had Amy, who actually was the accomplice in season, and she played pretty much as well as I expected, honestly. I kind of expected to be kind of just a pawn this season, and she definitely had a fun moment, was likable for most of her run, but not someone that's going to be high up in my priority during this season. And unfortunately, probably same with Adrian, who was a weird figure on this season, who someone that claimed that he's just on about and just hates like snakes and lies, honestly, which is like, then why did you sign up for Big Brother, and why do you watch the show if you don't like that? And it's always been so weird, honestly. Honestly, because he also claimed to be like a Big Brother super fan. I'm pretty sure he is, but it's a weird super fan, honestly. I'm not sure that's just me, honestly, but again, he was also solid. He definitely had his moments, but yeah, I mean, he got voted on around the point I expected him to be, because I expected him to have a bit of a flame out, honestly, but it wasn't really a flame at all, honestly. He was one person that kind of got a little screwed up bloodburst, and the fact that one was Lauren, but overall, again, he was fine. And then we had Jimmy, who is definitely going to be another player that I feel like we lost a bit too soon, honestly, as well. Jimmy, this game player, was pretty terrible, especially during his week 2 HOH. But, he was incredibly entertaining. I still, he was just funny, joyful, had a interesting to Rachel throughout the season, and an interesting to Kiana throughout the season. The guys would have a lot of fun one-liners, and was just hilarious to watch throughout. Again, not a good game player, as week 2 HOH was pretty abysmal, but then there's the season that had a lot of abysmal HOHs. But here's one that we kind of lost a bit too soon. And then we get to Zach, who was kind of most the player personality I expected him to be, someone that's not the most interesting character in the world, but someone that, honestly, for the first few weeks, actually was pretty impressive, honestly. He maybe a little passive at times, and how he was doing injury week wasn't the greatest, but he was someone that was very loved around most of his cast, honestly. Someone that was a likable person, and someone that, if given the right cast and given the right structure, he probably could have made a deep run on this season. He was probably tempted to make a deep run, honestly. But I know a lot of people had him in the number 1 power rankings in week 4, honestly, and then he got back to the next week, which goes to show the unpredictability of the season, which I will get into. But yeah, Zach, he was fine on the season. Not someone I disliked or anything like that, but again, the fact that he also had power, I also found that he actually had a power which basically allowed him to basically give someone $10,000 and to take himself off the block. And he had that power, and the person he decided to, and one of the people he decided to, and another person, and the reason why, because he didn't want Morgan to basically be on the block, because she was probably going to be the arena. But that person ended up voting him out anyway. Yeah, but again, fine. And then we get to Riley, who, he sucks. I'm actually going to talk about his eviction at some point in this video, so I'll talk about more Riley when we get there. And then go to his showman to Catherine, who was also pretty fine on this season. Catherine's just definition of just a fine player on this season. I don't really have much to say about Catherine otherwise. Sorry. And then we get to Mickey, who was kind of a disappointing figure on this season. I will lie on that. Well, because in the first few weeks, she was actually very likable, very fun, entertaining. A lot of people were pretty high on Mickey in the first few weeks. She was someone that might just weasel her way to the end, might be a dark horse pick to win this season. She was playing good socially, had good bonds. And then she ended up using her interrogation power, basically. She was still trying to steal someone HOH, but that person will have to not guess it was her. Yet most people expected it was Mickey, except Riley didn't, expect it was Ashley. And then makes Sophia choice. And ever since then, he decided to nominate Riley, not a victim, William, and then nominated close ally Jimmy for really no reason. And then went on this egoist bow trip, honestly, where she plays the perfect definition of HOH ice that lasted throughout the rest of her run, where she became less likable and kind of a crazy power trip, in which basically she had a huge trip with Rachel. I feel like she was running it was HOH. And then a lot of things that just didn't make sense, and she just lost the trust of all her allies and the majority of the house. So again, if she did not win the blockbuster week 6 and the veto week 7, she would have been an easy evictee, no doubt. Honestly, unfortunately, it made her less likable. Unfortunately, because of that, because of how big of a happened. It was kind of entertaining that downfall she had, to where she was so delusional that she's I am running the game. I can easily get these votes. I can easily manipulate this. I am on top of the world. When in reality, She wasn't. Not even close. So again, even the closest allies like Will, Eva, and even Morgan end up turning on her. Again, it made for a hilarious downfall, especially when she was shocked right to her when she was evicted, when her reaction was like, wow, like, seriously, you never the one day you were going home? Wow. So that does still make it entertaining, honestly, which is why I still like Mickey by the end of the day, even though she is kind of less likable by the end of her run, but I never seen someone turn on someone pretty fast, honestly. Especially how she treated Jimmy during his boo week, which is like, damn. But yeah, fortunately. But yeah, Mickey, kind of disappointing. And then we have Will, who was a player that actually surprised me on this season. I wasn't sure what to expect from Will going into this season. I kind of expected him to be just a perpetual pawn this season, and I felt like he was going to week 2 and 3, but well, I don't think he was perfect as a player. He's still definitely one of the better ones of the season, having an incredible social game, having everyone pretty much liking him throughout. So, like, we all thought that Will was going to make it to the end, but it wasn't for a certain twist to happen. He probably wouldn't have made a deep run, honestly, when it was definitely up in the air, especially when he could win any competitions. But Will was just a likable guy that had some pretty fun and hilarious moments, and he was definitely a standout this season for sure. And then we have Lauren, who is one of the most passive and indecisive players ever. Like, her big thing is that she's so indecisive about everything. And people tell her she's just like, no, I make this all the time. I was like, no. But Lauren actually ended up being better than I expected in terms of personality-wise, at least. Like, she wasn't as boring as everyone thought she would be. But it's really her indecisiveness makes her so hilarious to watch. The fact that she can't really make much decisions. It can't really just process certain things, process this and that. It's like, really? But again, it makes her such a hilarious player to watch, and having to abysmal situations where she basically wants someone to tell what to do, honestly, and wants someone to tell her who to nominate, honestly, and she knows who she nominated, but wants someone to tell her that's right thing, and then she doesn't do that. But yet, it's pretty hilarious when you actually think about it. Yeah, she's definitely something nursing on this season. A lot more skill than I expected, actually, but yeah, but gameplay, she wasn't that great, honestly, and but she's the one that she's older. I can see her doing well on the return, honestly. But yeah, and the last one to talk about this portion before we get to talk more deep about the other players is Ayla. Again, I'm not disappointed because during the pre-injury phase, I absolutely adored Ayla. Like she was playing pretty well in certain portions of the season. She felt like she was doing pretty well for herself. She had some fun moments. Beaumont had some pretty fun one-liners and some pretty hilarious banter and a lot of moments throughout. Had some pretty nice relationships throughout most of the season. But after the whole thing, I have a Rachel, which I will talk about next, by the way. Her popularity went just hugely downhill, honestly, and she became less likable. Again, some of the manipulation she basically was great in the first half of her run, and then the second half she basically just like in fact that she said she was competing for America's favorite player still doesn't help those men, honestly. Well, who knows, maybe this is how Ava actually is in real life, honestly, but it did make her last half, honestly, very disappointing by the end of it. Honestly, to a while, I'd say she was great again, honestly, but she definitely had her moments. And definitely had some fun ones and some fun moments that definitely elevated her a little bit. Be one of the better players of the season, even though it's not really saying much. I mean, how she had one of the better HOHs of the season, honestly. Again, that's probably not saying much. But yeah. And at this point on the season 2 why? Well, she definitely had hilarious moments. Like, I was a April Pearl stand, honestly, during the first half. I ended up just becoming whelmed by her by the end of her run. Just whelmed. And I read such what about some house because I feel like there's so more thought about these players that I decided to put them in those sections. And the first one I'll talk about is Rachel Riley. And one meantime, I might as well mention the twist in this season, the Lucas twist, which I'm not gonna talk about too much here, honestly, mostly because I feel like a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people, a lot of people in general already talked about this twist to death at this point. So I'm not going to talk about too deep, honestly, but basically, long story short, they tried to emulate the third episode of Bring Your Cans in this hamster wheel challenge. Basically, you have to do it in a certain amount of time, and the person that wins picks the next person to go, and then they do it on an hour less, and the person that fails gets eliminated. They find interest in the final 9 this season, which Recent Way World Radio games, obviously, because it was a challenge-focused season, but this season, not so much. Because, the fact they decided to have someone be led by a challenge on the Big Brother season pretty much goes against the entire format of the show. And while I know some people that will say, oh, you expect that? Come on, it's expecting the unexpected. There was some sort of strategy element on it. Hey, Rachel probably shouldn't just won the challenge. She's the one that grabbed people's arm and said she probably won them. It's like, no. But yeah. But let's talk about Rachel. But yeah, that twist, I'm saying that twist sucks. I'm not gonna get too much into detail because I feel like so many YouTubers that got into on at this point. But yeah, when I look at the twist, up there is one of the worst twists in the show's history. Definitely up there with the zombie because the absolute worst in general. Like for me, that twist look like Lotus Zombie Weekend can come back amongst the worst twists of the show, in my opinion. Like Jesus, but let's talk about Rachel Ran as a whole. Like I remember when she was introduced, I thought she was like I think a lot of people just expect the next 7 house guest to be someone that's just there for the twist like it was last season. But no, Rachel Riley, a former winner of the show, honestly, and a Big Brother legend, ended up returning. It was weird that no one apparently knew who she was, and some people didn't know apparently she won the season. Like, really? But it's like it was exciting to see Rachel return 15 years later. Almost like 15 years later, and then a lot has changed with Rachel. Obviously, she was married to Brendan. She got married to Brendan. She had a couple of kids, and a lot of stuff has changed. She's also been on reality shows that she was on the Amazing Race 3 times, and with varying results. But well, she was on the Amazing Race 3 times with varying results. She was on The Traitors, Taking the Grass, and Most Coast of America, and now she was on Big Brother again, all these years later. And again, Rachel is someone that overall, I'm someone that used to be like very divisive towards Rachel, or I used to be very conflicted. Where, and this again, 12 was one time I saw getting into the show, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I used to hate Rachel. I used to despise Rachel as a character. Like just so bratty, whining, and annoying, and just kindness, and I just didn't enjoy that at all. And from a guy, I hope I wasn't the only one that did that, but again, it was still so frustrating. So goddamn frustrating. So goddamn frustrating. But as years went on after we watched both first seasons, Rachel's someone that I definitely got a more appreciation for. Especially after watching every rest seasons that they made race seasons to where, while I still hated it on 20, I enjoyed it more than the earlier appearances on the Amazing Race. And I can say I enjoyed it also more on 12 and 13, actually. And again, she was on Traitors, which I really enjoyed. She also was on Taking the Grass, which I enjoyed. And she even appeared on a show called Worst Coast of America, which is a show that my mom enjoys watching. So she was actually good on that, surprisingly, as well. But now she's back on Big Brother, which, and she was basically the main star of the pre-jury. Until the pre-jury, she was basically the main star. She'll be the main character this season, and also a big focus on Rachel as a character, and how much she has grown throughout the season too. Well, her gameplay wasn't perfect throughout the season like most of this cast. She definitely plays her best game to date. Because obviously, while she was terrible, she was like totally felt enjoy the house, honestly, and probably wouldn't gotten victim at any point, honestly. Though it was interesting in week 1 because of Annie being a terrible player as well, and probably would have lost anytime she won her HOHs. In 13, she felt like she lucked her way, honestly, and the fact that there was still things out of her control, the fact of getting evicted at certain points, and feel like she probably could have gotten evicted. Again, that's a whole story for another day. But this actually gives us a lot more faith that Rachel can actually do well as a player. So again, while she wasn't perfect, she definitely improved that she has some important aspect. Again, she was a person responsible for the Riley eviction, which I will have its own session for in this video. And while we still get down, feistiness that we expect from Rachel, it's actually a little more toned down, actually, than you were expecting, honestly, and just how much Rachel actually has matured during times where, yeah, I end up having a lot more faith Rachel as a player, honestly, and she does end up having some precedent bumping and day, and there's a lot of focus on relationships, especially with Morgan and Vince, and especially Keanu, honestly, and then, of course, Will as well, and even Kelly, Kelly's, but again, we're talking about Kelly in a bit. But yeah, overall, I'm very positive on Rachel, and it is pretty disappointing and pretty just frustrating that she got eliminated by a challenge. And of course, some people will flip out that basically saying, like, oh, she could just put her hands better, which, like saying at the time when it was, honestly, it's like she probably was screwed away. And some people will say, oh, she could, if it was like Kelly or Ben, someone you didn't like, no one would be, no one would, and of course some people will say that if it wasn't Rachel, none of us would have gotten as upset as we were, honestly. Honestly, I'm pretty sure we all would still be upset with this twist if it wasn't for, if it was Rachel, like probably not as bad as Rachel, I'll give you that. But even if it wasn't Rachel, we all would still be upset. The fact just ended up being Rachel, who was a big problem season, who also, by the way, never got nominated until this point, by the way, which is also, seeing Rachel is pretty impressive. I mean, she was definitely close to the last couple of weeks, but the fact she was able to get out of those positions was pretty impressive. I thought she wanted to be Vince. And the fact she made it to the jury without getting nominated, which is, again, it's Rachel talking about, it's pretty impressive. So it makes you have one more thing as a player for Rachel, honestly. So I would not mind seeing her return again. Like, I would not be surprised if see her again, like maybe on all winter season or in future returning play season at some point down the road. But yeah, I am believing the season a little more high on Rachel as a player. I'm pretty sure a lot of us did, honestly, and I'm happy that in terms of Rachel the character, I'm a lot more impressed by her, and I have a lot more admiration for her. Well, I still don't know if I'll call her my all-time favorite character of reality TV, but I at least have a lot more respect for her whenever she appears. And let's talk about the players that I actually have more to say about, honestly. And the first one to talk about, let's kind of get a little bit of a short one, but first up we have is Keanu and Kelly, who are two definitely interesting figures on this season. Reality, when you actually look at the games on this season, there's no hell way Keanu Kelly should have made it as far as he did. Like, reality, I don't think they should have not made it as far as he did. Like, Keanu Kelly, like, in a regular season, there was people that would just get eliminated pre-jury and they'd be just forgotten on. So, like, I feel like Kelly is someone that would be just a terrible social pariah and just get brought in week 1 or week 2. And Keanu would have slain down like Devin Shepard did. That's what the character is, Devin Shepard, being 16, and there's a good reason why he's compared to that, because yeah. But somehow, some way, Kelly made it to the final 7, and Keanu made it to the final 5, with possible chances of winning because of their competition prowess and all that stuff. For a majority of the runs, they were big social pariahs. Like, Kelly, she kind of played as much as expected, somehow even worse, honestly. I'm just that way. Kelly's also one of the only players season I really do not like, honestly. Like, I'm more mixed on her as a whole, but as a whole, I really just didn't like her, honestly. I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't. So someone that basically got nominated week 1 because someone who basically for the first 3 weeks volunteered to be on the block, which is also another field. I think I forgot to mention this in when talking about her gameplay, but another thing I worry that we're always going to see people just volunteer to be on the block. Thinking it's an excellent strategic strategy that's going to owe you to the HOH, that's going to basically show you how much you're willing to put yourself in danger and on the block for your allies, and it's going to make you feel more trusting. When in reality, it's going to make you feel expendable to them, and it's going to cause the whole house think you're just a petrol pawn. I mean, that kind of happened with Tucker last season, and it happened with Kelly this season. Like, she got nominated for the first 4 weeks. And during those weeks, she ended up volunteering herself. And there's a good chance that, if Kelly did not win the Blockbuster week 1, week 3, did not win that secret veto week 2, and maybe it was the fact that Jerry did not get nominated week 4, and it was the fact that Kelly did not win the Blockbuster during the final 11, 9 times out of 10, or 10 out of 10, she would have gotten evicted. Which again kind of makes the Blockbuster thing a little more concerned for the future, that Kelly ended up winning competitions to have to make it as far as she did, which again is pretty insane if you really think about it. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. And she had become like a big social pariah for most of the house. Most people didn't really annoy the life out of her, and then she always like whine and complain about why no one likes me when it's like you don't really try, and you also talk about people behind their backs, especially with her treatment towards Rachel throughout most of the season. Because I think I remember correctly those months where she probably would say, "Oh, I prefer Rachel to be the first member of the jury," which that's also another thing about Rachel, is that there was this whole little thing that they want her to be the first member of the jury at one point. I mean, that being like Paul and then being like in the weeks 4 or 5, at least 1 and 5, I believe, honestly, which honestly, and that doesn't even when Rachel wanted to quit at that point, honestly, which I totally get it from her point of view. I don't think at first she might be for a viewer, but I do understand it. Sorry if I'm rambling on, honestly, but basically, I mean, does the whole thing, and how this whole thing of even like final 9 and final 11, final 10, where basically it was Lauren's birthday, and then drinking wine, honestly, and then Kelly ends up complaining about this and that, tries to be nice to Rachel, but Rachel gives a hug, and it's like, whatever, Rachel! You basically dissed her and her family, and she literally said that Rachel would be Rachel's just a disappointment, that her husband and her kids should be disappointed with her and all that stuff, but I don't remember what she said about that, but yeah. That doesn't make Kelly the most likable underdog in the world, honestly. You know, to kind of put that onto herself. And again, the fact that she made it to the final freaking 7 is insane! When she was still in the probably wouldn't be like an early boot on most given seasons. And I was just saying about Keanu as well. Like Keanu, I actually do like Keanu actually. I actually do, if I put Kelly Keanu, I actually prefer Keanu, honestly. You know, like Kelly, he's probably one of the worst players that ever played me friend, honestly. Like Mickey, he was so delusional for that muscles. He think he was right in the game, thinking he was going to pick out everyone one by one. I think he told that to everyone's face at one point. Well, no. He ended up becoming a big social pariah, ends up treating people pretty terribly throughout the season, and again, if he wasn't the fact that he basically did not win the vetoes of week 2, 3, and 4, until week 2 was definitely up in because he ended up winning a power, basically, ended up winning a Mr. Competitive Power. Casey ended up winning the veto for him, and he did not win the blockbusters in the final 8 and the week 5, and obviously he did not win the final 6 joint. If he did not win the final 6 veto, 9 times out of 10, Keanu would have gotten evicted at all those evictions. But Keanu was still fun to watch. He was still a fun character. Like, his delusions make him so hilarious to watch at times, honestly. And at least for how good of a brother can be, the fact that he did win 4 vetoes in HOH, which was also pretty terrible, by the way, and the 2 blockbusters. So I'm pretty sure if he would see Keanu, I feel like he, along with a lot of person I'm getting to, are going to be the most likely returning for this season. I would not mind it. And from what I get out of Keanu, I mean, he seems to be very likable from the fan base. The fact that he actually won America's Favorite Player, which I still looks why that did not beat Rachel. The fact that he actually won that proved how much he is liked by the fan base on, despite the fact that he plays pretty terrible throughout the season and so delusional for season 2. He's so delusional to his elimination round where he was shocked that Vince put him up. Where he's like, really? But what I will say is that Keanu seems to actually, learn from his mistakes. He seems to like, yeah, I probably screwed up on my run, honestly, after his season. So I'm sure if he were to get Keanu tune on, I'm pretty sure he would try to improve. I have more faith in him to actually improve on his time on the season. He wanted to play had more faith to actually improve his second run, honestly. I feel like he could play a good social game while also dominating the competitions. So yeah, I'm fully based on the season. I would not mind seeing a Keanu return, honestly. Kelly, no, I do not want to see Kelly return. Keanu, I would not mind it. And now we get to 2 of the biggest names that are pretty much synonymous with this season. That is Morgan and Vince. Let's talk about Morgan first, because I really have more to say about Vince, honestly, than Morgan. But the thing about both these players, honestly, is that the other players I was actually the most interested to see on this season. Like Morgan, like her competition was Gamer. And I don't know why, I've seen you had these little competitions was definitely very interesting. But yeah, Morgan was someone I was very interested on the few. The fact that she was pretty much dropped that gorgeous, but again, she posted she was actually a model, gamer, and also athlete as well. So someone that we expected probably might do a lot of good competitions. And one of the fact that Morgan's gameplay, she does have her issues, and she definitely doesn't treat people the best at times, honestly. I ended up leaving the season being very positive on Morgan, honestly. And she can't be very mean girl-esque at times, honestly, which doesn't make her the most likable at times. But I found myself to actually be pretty irritating, honestly, because usually I'm not really a fan of those awkward times on reality shows, but this is one of the cases I actually found her to be very entertaining, honestly. And she definitely, more of their calls, there were times that she probably could have gotten evicted at multiple points throughout the season, especially during that Riley eviction. She has some impressive effort, honestly. I mean, hell, the fact that she basically convinced Vince to put up his close Adam Law in the final 7, well, people do discredit that move of her being just a bitchy mean girl, which I feel like that was a male doing that stuff, honestly, that probably would be an impressive move, but that's a story for another day. But it is a really impressive move, honestly, and the fact that she is able to make it for what she did is still pretty impressive. And it's crazy the fact that during the final 10 on, she ended up winning like so many competitions when felt that she was basically a comp flop during the first half, honestly. But during the final round, she ended up winning a lot of competitions. Like, she ended up winning 5 vetoes, which is insane, and 2 HOHs. And also ended up breaking the record for most competition wins in a row, actually. The West record was done by Ian Terry in 2014 by 5, and I believe Morgan has at least 7, I believe, in a row, which is pretty impressive. And it's impressive considering the competitions she ended up playing on this season. 2 of them more physical competitions, and competitions they would normally see on Big Brother. So telling them to Kenzie, they end up being content of variety. They end up feeling very more, considering the present, considering the competitions, at least the kind of different variety to them, they end up being very more impressive, like Jack wins in 2025. So her competition probably ended up kind of very impressive. She had by a good chance to win the season. So to what she did end up having a good chance to win the season. There's definitely a reason why people pretty much compared her to Vanessa in 17. The part I actually like went to Vanessa. That's for another day. That's because she basically was the big counter that you need to get in on. So, there's a good chance she probably could have won against like Ashley or Vince. But most of the Vince, honestly, Ashley's still a bit of a toss up. But again, something Kiana, I think Morgan is another player. I would not be surprised if we end up seeing her on the season. Also, I've seen her Twitch streams very recently, and I do recommend checking out her Twitch channel, actually. I think it's called Model Morgan, I believe it's called. But I do recommend checking it out, actually. She is pretty hilarious on her streams. And she also seems to have a little laugh in this season as well. And so I don't be surprised if in the future returning season we do see Morgan make a return. Also on other shows. Like, I want to probably see her or Kiana appear on other shows like, Survivor, The Challenge, or a future Big Brother season. I would probably if these end up being like the face of Big Red, honestly, considering considering how they played on this season, especially I'd say most of Kiana, honestly, but overall, again, I end up being mostly liked on this season. But now we get to Vince. Here's a lot to say about Vince, but I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as I can, honestly. Like, Vince pretty much embodies the insanity of this season. Mostly because, basically, when you look at his actual gameplay, honestly, when you actually think about how he plays the game, Vince basically has the makings of a fantastic Big Brother player. And the fact that he's able to get a lot of people to trust him, the fact that he was able to get a lot of people on his side and all that stuff, the fact that he was able to have people like, Lauren and Morgan super loyal to him. And the fact that he was able to pull some impressive feats, honestly, in this season and make some decent moves, actually. And the fact that he was able to be part of the Judges Alliance, and to find the Judges Alliance, Rachel Morgan, with Rachel Morgan, Ashley Will, and Rachel, who, they were kind of enemies at that point. Vince still displays some impressive elements that could make him potentially one of the best players of all time if it wasn't for a few factors. One, his HOHs were terrible, and how he overpromises, how he makes certain deals, and how he feels like he has no choice, doesn't want to hurt people or break promises, or doesn't want to sign so many people when it's like, this is Big Brother, you're going to make people upset. If you knew that, why didn't you for sure in the first place? 2, he basically plays the rounds that probably should be impressive rounds. Even the present moment that should be impressive events, he kind of plays them all wrong, honestly. Where he ends up whining about it, or complaining, or how he just doesn't tell people certain things, how he doesn't display it, how it's one of the things where it's like, the other calls, it's just how he does it. 3, he basically ends up kind of walking forward throughout the back half of the season. Having a season be kind of walking forward the back half of the season, honestly. Like, his HOHs are just terrible, which is the one somehow being the worst. Morgan basically convinced him to nominate Lauren, and you can tell once he did that, he's pretty much toast at this point, honestly. And there were some moments in the season where I feel like if he wanted to, he really could have. And there were also a lot of moments I feel like if he wanted to, he really could have been setting up people to basically, be on his side. Like, week 3, he probably could have convinced Lauren to put up Rachel, but he decided not to because he didn't want to feel like he was running her HOH. Which people expected that anyway, so it's like, might as well do it. And just made both someone that's just so frustrating and so hilarious. like I was like, his wife definitely got a bit old after a while. I know, of course, the whole like, scandal and him when emotionally cheating on Morgan, which I'm not gonna get too much detail on that, but yeah, it was. But the whole drama onto involving him, Morgan, definitely was hilarious, and definitely why the end game of the season ended up becoming so fun as it is I feel like it wouldn't be as interesting, honestly. But that whole thing made for one of the most entertaining ending games that we've gotten in quite a while. And his meltdown, the part two of the founding HOH, where basically he ended up misreading the rules, and he basically had one of the biggest meltdowns that we've gotten, which is like again super hilarious. And the fact that he actually could have, Morgan actually was going to evict him if she won the HOH. Oh, well, I'm fine. What person actually then, but the fact that Vince kind of lost Morgan's loyalty is just damn. So, well, I'm not sure if Vince at the end they ended up coming up. To well, Vince is not really a likable person by the end of the day, honestly. Like he's someone that keeps saying like 9 times out, like a million times, I have lied for 10 years, and he ends up whining and complaining throughout most of his run, honestly. You cannot lie the impact he had on this season. You cannot deny the impact that Vince had on this season. And again, like I'm pretty sure season one to be as irritating as what it wasn't for Vince. Like what he's like or not, he was still so entertaining, and his whining and kind of like so hilarious. Which again, I usually shouldn't find it entertaining, but that means like I shouldn't find it entertaining. Like I'm sure Vince is like an ass guy in real life, honestly, and it does look like he seems to look back on his stuff and look back like, yeah, I kind of screwed up, I messed up, all that stuff. So, to why I'm not sure if he would return, if he would fix out some mistakes. If he would fix those mistakes, honestly, like I'm not sure if I have it on that at all. It is one thing you cannot deny about Vince on this season is that he ended up becoming so entertaining on this season. And you're just gonna have to laugh at certain portions of this season. That's how he acts sometimes. So yeah. Well, I'm not sure if Vince is gonna be high up on my favorite players of all time. He does make this season so entertaining as it is. But now before I talk about the winner, honestly, I might as well talk about the best months of the season, and also talk about the season was so unpredictable, honestly. Like, this is definitely one of the most unpredictable seasons that we have gotten in quite a while, actually. Somewhat even more than last season with the pre-J release, but it kind of got a little bit difficult in the first half. But this season, it felt like every week you never know what you're going to get, which definitely is a benefit of Blockbuster, but kind of not at the same time. But it's just, this cast played so terribly, you like, no one knows what's going to happen, honestly. Where it felt like a certain result didn't happen, you like, what was going to happen then? Like, what's going to happen? Like, how the game was going to shake up, honestly. I mean, how Zach was basically someone like I mentioned. Zach was someone that basically was high up on people's power rankings in the first few weeks, and the fact he got evicted week 5 was insane, honestly. And then we got the iconic Riley eviction, which is I'm just gonna talk about the Riley eviction itself, honestly, because it's probably an eviction that's going to go down. Like it's an eviction that's going to go down in the top 10 and top 5 evictions of all time. Well, it's because now Riley got evicted, and I'm gonna say this. Riley sucked on this season. Like, if I want to think anyone season is going to be on my least favorite players of all time, Riley is on that list. And I'm pretty sure he is for a lot of people on this. I'm not going to be a dead horse about it. He just was terrible at the game, honestly. He basically had like a showman to Catherine that was just so icky with how he treats her. That was like so icky with how he treats her, how like, he was love bombing, and how he basically was toxic towards her. And all that stuff. It basically felt like an abusive, toxic relationship that was just so uncomfortable to watch. Like I'm someone that's not really likely to watch it, but I did watch some of the clips that we've seen that was on YouTube at least, or people have told me about it, or what I've seen from group chats, from Facebook groups I'm in. And I'm like, eesh. But it's better fact that Riley playing a terrible game, honestly. Some of you actually liked him, honestly. Like Keanu actually was loyal to Keanu. Like Keanu especially was like Keanu was loyal to Riley. That the Riley was never loyal to him, honestly, and he basically had a lot of people like that, Kevin's side, and Keanu, Lauren, and Kelly as well. So we're coming into week's division where basically Rachel ended up winning her first HOH, but of Vince, Mickey, and Morgan. Lauren won the veto in the ultimate competition. Was basically like told, like, hey, I don't want you to veto. No, I'm putting up Riley, and apparently Riley wanted to be used apparently for some reason. And then Lauren did use veto on Vince, and then Rachel was like, Riley, take a seat. But we felt like, I think Riley's like, sorry. But he felt that no matter who was going to win, like I'm pretty sure like if Mickey won, didn't win Blockbuster, she was going to go home no matter what, considering like her ego and everything like that. But even next to Morgan, like she probably was going to get evicted, like probably get evicted. With some people probably were going to try to turn out Riley, but we didn't think it was going to be like a possibility. But somehow the stars aligned, or Rachel never stopped pushing for it. Basically, Mickey did end up winning a Blockbuster. Honestly, again, Morgan did receive 4 votes from Keanu, people like Keanu, Kelly, Lauren, and Catherine. But somehow we got Mickey Victor Riley, Vince decided to Victor Riley, Ava actually Victor Riley, and then it's kind of with Ashley and Will's votes also won Victor Riley. Riley kind of 55 by 4 vote, which I'm not watching now live, honestly, and even seeing Jillian saying like Morgan, you're safe, which is something that she does really nowadays. Because the fact that if Riley did not get it that moment, he was guaranteed to make a deep run into the season. Like, so you know how Riley is the person. He's like, no, Michael Player's gonna make it deep in the season. Well, we heard this before on Big Brother. But no. Riley got evicted in week 6. And I remember being like, so, hallelujah on that moment, because it was just, and it's one of those evictions I feel like it's just aligned perfectly. And then we got one of the most exciting evictions we had gotten in recent memory. Like I mentioned before, this is probably a top 5 eviction of all time because of how insane the stars actually aligned here. And again, Riley likely would have made a deep run on this season if he stayed on, because he had so many people undivided loyal to him. And that would not have been a fun season to watch. But again, adds to the unpredictability of the season for even the next week with Kat and the King evicted. Kat was able to target that week, honestly, because it felt like if she was next to Kelly would have got evicted, honestly, if she was next to Ava, who was very likable. And all that stuff. And also the fact that Mickey did actually win her eviction, the Blockbuster where she got evicted, actually Vince would have gotten evicted, which might have ended up being volunteer of the season. And who knows what would happen that one on. So I feel like Vince actually would have got evicted. That would make for another all-time eviction, honestly, that would happen, honestly. Which is why part of me was kind of praying on to that one that Mickey would have won the Blockbuster somehow. But it is what it is, I guess. That would have been I think that would an all-time great eviction. And how at the final 8, again, I'm talking about Ashley's gameplay, we're going to get to talk about Ashley. But the fact that she ended up staying over Will, who again was an incredible social player at the time, is pretty insane. I mean, well, it kind of get a little screwed because like Lucas Twist, but he also got injured in the BB Comics. You also say BB Comics keep getting worse. We're still pretty impressive, honestly. And the fact that she was never an option to be nominated for Final 7, which should have been an easy option for Vince to not put up Lawrence to put up Ashley. But the fact that she didn't, because I felt like Vince was told that if he put up someone from the judges, he would have basically didn't even need the votes, which is, again, pretty insane. So even the endgame stretch, and some of the most fun moments in the endgame that we got in recent adult fiction, and coming pretty fun with Lauren finally getting the boots. Keanu's illusion still getting to him in the final freaking 5, honestly. Even the final 5 was pretty interesting with Ava being Ava and basically trying to tear down Vince and everything, and then her getting the boots. Even the final 3 rounds, one of the most exciting final 3s we got in a long time. Well, the fact that William probably would have evicted Vince in final 3 was pretty insane, honestly. And the fact that we had someone actually winning the HOH, the first HOH, and the final HOH, again, pretty mind-blowing. So again, this is definitely going to be a season that's going to be higher in terms of seasons that are just incredibly unpredictable. And now we're going to talk about the winner of the season, the campaign's off in this video. And that is talking about the winner of the season and Ashley Hollis, which I think I made a short on this, honestly. It's after this season ended, and I still think about it, honestly, and the fact that Ashley, it's going to be one, it's honestly, was a great win, the fact that Ashley Hollis, I think, is a very satisfying winner to this season. Like, she's probably one of the most satisfying winners that we have gotten in quite a while. A lot of people got some several ones with Chelsea last season. She was the most likable at times. And of course, Taylor Hill is 24. In terms of, still in terms of satisfying, Ashley's going to go down as like a top 5 most satisfying winner. Between all the people in this cast, honestly, that made it this far, she's going to go down as an incredible, satisfying winner. And it's interesting is that that I remember people having Ashley as the winner picks, and all like the preseason panels I saw. I think everybody had Ashley as the number one on the winner picks. Honestly, it seemed like because she was a lawyer, she's supposed to be athletic, she's someone that was going to be like a Taylor-esque figure on the season. But for the first week, you're like, oh boy, she's probably going to be a disaster on this season. Because, again, week one, she basically had the whole showergate incident where basically she's supposed to take a 2-hour shower in Vince's bed, HH room. Supposedly it was actually 30 minutes and talked about last hour and a half doing that. And then that was like the talk of the town, honestly, for almost the first week. Now that's actually being nominated by Vince, and then probably couldn't get on the veto. She did not win the first veto, which she did, thankfully. And then she'll be like very messy, honestly, a little bit, and we'll have some weird social faux pas for most of the week. And then, but she does include some press elements that she was able to convince Lauren not to put her up in week 3. And of course, there's the hilarious incident where basically like she tried to change her vote in week 4, which is one of the most hilarious moments in Big Brother recent memory. And it's something I'm surprised to actually see more people trying to change their vote, actually, if you really think about it. So yes, I actually didn't get up on the Grace run, honestly, but she had a kind of more impressive line on season, which I feel like a lot of people don't really know, actually, because fortunately the edit didn't really show. Again, I know about the whole gameplay and stuff, because I've seen clips and seen stuff from groups I'm in and on YouTube, honestly, so at least I'm very knowledgeable on that. But when you actually look at her game, she actually can be very impressive, actually. She had to have some pretty impressive moments, actually, for her run. Fortunately, it just wasn't shown, which is why I see a lot of people complaining, oh, Ashley just floated throughout the game. She didn't do anything. Why the hell did she win? Like, they thought they should have won. Morgan should have won. They played better games. Why, Ashley? But again, when you actually... Again, I'm more blaming on the editing of her season, which is also kind of another issue I have this season, is also the editing, honestly. I'm gonna give them a little side tangent on the ending as well, as I feel like they didn't really show certain things in this season where they tried to play Vince more of a mastermind early on. In case I mentioned with Riley and Catherine, it was never actually shown on the show, so Riley was more portrayed as like a savior and golden boy when he was far from it. Honestly, and in fact, Ashley wasn't really shown. She was more shown as being like Rachel's sidekick. Was really shown to make some impressive moves that she had done making, actually. But it was big fight, basically. She had to be impressive with the fact that David, who basically was a big Ashley proponent for that point, did not nominate Ashley at one point, was pretty impressive, actually. She was also one of the pokes in the Riley fish I mentioned earlier, honestly. She ended up part of the Judges Alliance with Rachel, Will, Morgan, and Vince, which ended up basically being a big alliance that ended down most of the season. But it probably could have been like the final 5 if it wasn't for the Light Orchestra switch with Rachel. And of course, why she did get nominated with Keanu, honestly, and then that's Keanu, honestly, and Keanu played that week terribly, where basically ended up putting up Vince as like the way to teach him a lesson, which is pretty hilarious. And he had to keep it as well, so I had to probe Ashley, and then Ashley kind of taught him out a bit, which was not the most impressive move out there. It made for great TV. And she'd stayed over 6-1 Ashley with Mickey, and probably would have stayed if she was next to Vince, honestly. Because she probably was close to being victor finally. Again, the fact that she did not that she was next to Will, who, again, like I mentioned before, everyone loved Will, and he was a great social player, actually ended up being, actually was someone that started doing nothing. The fact that she never stopped trying. She never stopped trying to be a good player. She never stopped trying to create bonds with people. And she definitely had some pretty impressive moments. The fact that she was able to say, well, was pretty impressive. And again, the fact that Vince never considered the group Ashley as like an easy scapegoat over the whole like Morgan wanted to put up Lauren is again pretty impressive, honestly. The fact that she got pretty in Vince's head like, if you nominate one of the judges, they're not gonna vote for you in the end. Which again led to basically Vince put up Lauren and basically him demolishing his own game. Honestly, and ended up being safe for like the final round. Even the final 4th round, he ended up being safe actually, surprisingly. And again, and what we thought in final 3 actually was that there was no way actually was going to make the end between Vince and Morgan. Well, Vince, probably the fact that Vince ended up not doing one competition, and he kind of did a little bit well actually in the part 2 following attrition until he had his meltdown. But the fact that Morgan was actually going to cut Vince, actually, Morgan actually was going to cut Vince because of Ashley's great work, actually, it's pretty impressive actually. Like she basically at this point she basically puts on the Elle Woods persona, from Living Blonde, honestly, and thinking that she's like actually dumb, but turns she's a lot more smarter because she actually is a lawyer actually. Again, it is pretty impressive work actually, and that's what led her to pull impressive by giving an all-time great speech and win by 6-1 votes. Even the 6-1, again, the World Cup which is more of a pity vote, honestly. So that's still pretty impressive to actually end up winning this season. To up why I wouldn't call him like an all-time great player or anything, considering the season that went, honestly, her win ends up coming incredibly satisfying by the end of it. And actually, something that overall I ended up liking for most of the season. And it's fortunate to the point that she did the great edit that she like. It probably was pretty unfortunate that she didn't end up getting a great edit. I feel like that she definitely deserved. Like we do, if you definitely want more information on Ashley Scan, I'm checking out her deep dive on GP and her interview she did on But I do recommend if you guys want more information on Ashley Scan, I'm checking out her deep dive with RGP, and of course her interview she ended up doing with Eat Anime on his YouTube, who's basically the big brother content creator on YouTube. If you guys want more information on basically like her game and how she played on the season, like, cause I actually played a lot more impressive game than wasn't shown on the camera. It's like, I still see a lot of people claim that actually was a non-deserving winner and was one of the worst winners of all time because she did nothing about the season. Went back to everything. So again, I wouldn't say actually was perfect on say. She definitely had a rough start to the season, honestly, not gonna lie, and she, of course, she could have got victory week 1, honestly. She was one of the winners that was closest to get victory week 1, actually, and maybe couldn't have victory week 3 if she was on the one and actually had the balls to put her up, honestly. But she ended up pulling some impressive social maneuvers throughout the season, and along with her just being just a fun, likable presence throughout her run, makes her win in the end be very satisfying by the end of the season. If I find out, I'm not sure why I put on my winner ranking, I can say I'm actually very high, actually, after this season. Again, she at least could go down as one of the most satisfying winners in Big Brother history, in my opinion. Probably going as one of the more underrated as well. And that's the other one. Next example, I think the edit didn't really just show the best of Ashley, which again makes it pretty disappointing. But in the end, despite the issues that you have this season, somehow Big Brother 27 ended up becoming another fantastic season. And the reason why I never really thought it was going to be like an all-time great season at first, but the fact that I have not stopped thinking about this season since it came out really demonstrates that, honestly. To where, I definitely have issues with the concerns about the blockbuster and terrible gameplay in future seasons, the fact that the editing doesn't really portray certain elements like the Ashley's win and Riley and Cam's relationship, and of course the terrible Rachel twist that pretty much like a twist that by the way could have screwed this season, but somehow it didn't. The fact that the first out was so bad that even the Hellcats themselves thought it was bad, and it somehow did not ruin the actual season, is pretty impressive, actually. It's pretty insane, actually. The season did not go on a cliff on, so like most twists, like the zombie week in 2025. But yeah. I think this season is definitely up to par with last season, actually. I still think which one like better, honestly. Like, I'll be honest, if it wasn't Rich Twist, honestly, I probably would say this is probably better than last season, but it's definitely up there for sure. Because it has, mostly because it is one of those unpredictable seasons of all time. It has, so many highs and lows, so many insane gameplay decisions, so many baffling game decisions, but it makes for incredible TV. The cast now, overall, is mostly solid, honestly. Again, seeing Rachel return was pretty exciting, and having a very satisfying winner with Ashley by the end of it. House design was great, honestly. A mastermind twist that wasn't the greatest, honestly, but had a good conclusion to it. Having some insane moves and having an eviction that go down to one of the top 5 evictions of all time. A season that just had so many fun and hilarious moments, so many weird moments, but moments I couldn't help but laugh throughout. Also, I just want to mention the Big Brother a lot episodes, which actually I thought were pretty solid, actually. When basically they had Taylor and Derek host those shows, and then basically had some guests on. They had Boston Rob on there for some reason, and that was kind of awkward. I'm gonna lie. Yeah, that was kind of awkward. Not gonna lie, but pretty solid. And I would not mind if with Q Twigs they end up staying at some point down the road. But yeah, But yeah, there's also a very hilarious season. I think that has some of the most funniest moments in all of the show's history. And proved that with a few tweets, the show can actually be great, honestly. It's done pretty well. Again, sometimes stuff can really screw it on. So you can, the fact that the White Lotus Quest did not actually ruin this season as a whole, honestly. Like, look at my still for a lot of people. Like, I do feel 27 is going to be a device. Like I'll say, I do feel 27 is going to be a very divisive season, honestly. I feel like this season is going to be up and down with so many people. I feel like it is definitely up and down with so many people. I feel like a lot of people love this season and a lot of people hate this season. And if you do, I can totally understand why, honestly. I can definitely understand why you may not like this season, honestly. But for me, I absolutely adore it, honestly. And it's the fact that I have not stopped thinking about this season since it ended like almost a month ago. It's pretty much definitively proved that this season is definitely going to be one I'm going to remember for a long time. One that's going to be on my brain for a long time. And that proved that I think 27, and that's why I think personally, I have to think about it. I truly think Paper 27 is one of the best seasons of all time. I mean, I really thought about it, honestly, and I'm not sure if I'm one of the only people going to take that, honestly, but because of the solid cast, the hilarious moments, the unpredictability of the season, and the insane moments that happen throughout, I just have been great my first round most time, even with the frustration. So, yeah, 27 is an all time for me. But that's just my thoughts. Again, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of this season. Again, like I said before, I feel this is going to be a divisive season for a lot of people. So let me know if you guys actually enjoyed it or did you not like it or not. Again, sorry this video took a little longer than expected, but you know, life should be life, honestly. If I do plan to hope having more of these video essays down below, I feel like this is going to be more the main focus on the channel, more of these like video essay kind of videos, honestly. But I definitely do have fun with them, so. But definitely let me know down in the comment section what more content you guys want to see from this channel down below. I do have some more like video essay content coming very soon, so stay for that. This is the Survival Wikipedia, signing off.